Happy Easter. Alleluia. He is risen. This past Sunday was Easter Sunday. And there's so much that we could reflect upon, discuss about the final days of Jesus, his death, his resurrection. But today I want to talk about some of his friends, two of them in particular, Peter and Judas. Because what these two have in common is in the last few days of Jesus, they both, in two different ways, betrayed or denied Christ. The story of Judas, as we probably know pretty well, Judas is the one who goes to the chief priest, the temple elite, gets a sum of money, a bag of silver, to bring the soldiers to Jesus in the garden to arrest him and then subsequently try him and put him to death. Peter's story, the night of the Last Supper, when Jesus is saying, I am going to be arrested and killed, someone here is going to betray me. Peter says, no way, not me. It would never be me, Lord. I would be arrested with you. I would die for you. I would do anything for you. And Jesus says, Peter, you will deny me 3 times. And as Jesus is arrested, is under trial, people come up to Peter and say, weren't you with him? Weren't you one of the people that was alongside him? And Peter says 3 times, no, I was not with him. I don't know anything about him. Denying Jesus just as it was said. So these two both do something wrong, betray or deny someone who was a close friend to them. They were both a part of the 12. Peter was like his right-hand man. So they both do something, they mess up, but they have 2 very different responses afterwards, next steps after they mess up. And I want to read both of those and discuss them. We'll start with Judas's situation. Matthew chapter 27. Then Judas, his betrayer, seeing that Jesus had been condemned, deeply regretted what he had done. He returned the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and elders, saying, I have sinned in betraying innocent blood. They said, what is that to us? Look to it yourself. Flinging the money into the temple, he departed and went off and hanged himself. So Judas goes off. His next steps are hanging himself. Peter's situation, it doesn't necessarily say, but we can assume that he probably just kind of went off into a room and kind of dwelt for a while with that guilt. But nonetheless, he remains, and eventually, a few days later, Jesus comes back, is reunited with all the 12 and Peter, and we have this moment in John chapter 21 between Jesus and Peter. It says, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? He said to him, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. He said to him, feed my lambs. He then said to him a second time, Simon, son of John, do you love me? He said to him, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. He said to him, tend my sheep. He said to him the third time, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter was distressed that he had to say to him a third time, do you love me? And he said to him, Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you. So Jesus gives Peter this beautiful opportunity to redeem himself. While Peter denied Jesus 3 times, saying, I don't know him, essentially, I don't love him, Jesus gives Peter this opportunity to do it right, to say 3 times, yes, Lord, I do love you. And these 2 situations, these 2 responses to some kind of wrongdoing, some kind of sin, are really important for us to look at, because in both situations we have step 1, which is acknowledgement of sin and feeling some kind of remorse or guilt. It's very important that when we mess up, that we actually know that we mess up. We examine our conscience to some extent. And for some of you, maybe this is easier, for others, but actually saying, yes, I have sinned against Christ. Yes, I have messed up. I've done something wrong is step 1. And both of them have done that. It says that both of them feel this guilt, feel this remorse that they have betrayed a very close friend, done something very wrong. But what they do next, step 2 for each of them, is so very different. And Judas, his situation is a situation that, not to a very literal extent, but in kind of a symbolic way, I know that myself and maybe a lot of you often find ourselves in that same situation. Judas messed up big time. He did something so horribly wrong, betrayed one of his close friends to death, and feels just this immense guilt. And in our lives, when we sin, even a small sin sometimes can just allow us this feeling of guilt that we just don't know how to bear. And maybe that guilt for you has caused you to feel the way that Judas felt. Because in that moment, when Judas realized this immense guilt was so heavy that he thought to himself, there is no way that I could be forgiven. There is no way that I could be loved, that I am a lost cause because of this thing that I've done. And because Judas does that, because he takes such drastic measures in saying to himself that I cannot receive this forgiveness, he doesn't open himself up to even the potential to be loved, redeemed, and forgiven, then that's not an option for him when the option was there, as we can see in this situation of Peter. Peter messed up pretty bad too. He was like super close friends with Jesus. He was like the right-hand man. Peter, on this rock, I will build my church. Peter messed up. He betrayed him, denied him 3 times in his best friend's hour of most need. Obviously, Peter is feeling some immense guilt. But Peter, unlike Judas, allows himself to be open to redemption and forgiveness. And that's what's being offered to myself and to all of you, that when we mess up, as small or as big as it might be, that even the people that were so close to Jesus did the same. And that we all mess up in small ways and in big ways, but that forgiveness, Jesus is reaching out to us with this offer of redemption, with this offer of saying, you, Peter, you, my friend, do you love me? He's giving us a second chance to say yes. Yes, Lord, I'm sorry. Forgive me. I truly love you. So when we get caught up in our guilt, in our sin, it's important to look at these 2 situations and to not go the way of Judas, to not close ourselves off to the opportunity, the possibility of forgiveness, because the Lord is reaching out to us with this gift, this beautiful gift of a second chance with redemption. And that's what he died for, and that is what he resurrected for us to have new life, a second chance to say, yes, Lord, I love you. Yeah.